Assalamualaikum. Today we will discuss the first four rightly guided caliphs of Islam. Before we enter into the topic, we have to know that what is the meaning of word caliph. The word caliph is the English form of the Arabic word Caliph. The latter expression means successor to the Messenger of God, the Holy Prophet Muhammad. The title Khalifatu Rasulullah was first used for Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was elected as the leader of the Muslims after the death of Prophet Muhammad. Now we will discuss what is the role of Khalifatu Rasulullah. The mission of Prophet Muhammad is like the earlier messengers of God who called the people to worship in submission to the one true God. Islam means submission to God, means to obey His injunctions as given in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. As successor to the Prophet, the Caliph was the head of the Muslim community and his primary responsibility was to continue in the path of the Prophet. Since Islam was perfected and the door of divine revelation was closed at the death of the Prophet, the Caliph was to make all laws in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. He was a ruler over Muslims but not their sovereign, since sovereignty belongs to God alone. He was to be obeyed as long as he obeyed God. He was responsible for creating and maintaining conditions for Muslims according to Islamic law. Now we will discuss in points wise. First we will discuss about Hazrat Abu Bakr. After the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Muslim community had chosen the Abu Bakr as a Khalifa. Abu Bakr was the man upon whom the burden of leadership fell at the most sensitive period in the history of the Muslims. As the news of the Prophet's death spread, a number of tribes rebelled and refused to pay zakat, saying that this was due only to the Prophet Muhammad. At the same time, a number of impostors claimed that the prophethood had passed to them after Muhammad, and they raised the standard of revolt. Even the two powerful empires, the Eastern Roman and the Persian, also threatened the newborn Islamic state at Medina. Under these circumstances, many companions of the Prophet Muhammad, including Umar, advised Abu Bakr to make concessions to the zakat evaders at least for a time. Abu Bakr disagreed. He insisted that the divine law cannot be divided, that there is no distinction between the obligations of zakat and prayer. Abu Bakr said, if I compromise with the injunctions of God's law, would eventually erode the foundations of Islam. Umar and others were quick to realize their error of judgment. The revolting tribes attacked Medina, but the Muslims were prepared. Abu Bakr himself led the charge, forcing them to retreat. He then made a relentless war on the false claimants to prophethood, most of whom submitted and again professed Islam. The threat from the Roman Empire had actually arisen earlier, during the Prophet's lifetime. The Prophet had organized an army under the command of Usama, the son of a freed slave. The army had not gone far when the Prophet had fallen ill, so they stopped. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the question was raised whether the army should be sent again or should remain for the defense of Medina. Again Abu Bakr showed a firm determination. He said, I shall send Usama's army on its way as ordered by the Prophet, even if I am left alone. The final instructions he gave to Usama prescribed a code of conduct in war which remains unsurpassed to this day. Part of his instructions to the Muslim army were, do not be deserters nor be guilty of disobedience, do not kill an old man, a woman or a child. Do not injure date palms and do not cut down fruit trees. Do not slaughter any sheep or cows or camels except for food. You will encounter persons who spend their lives in monasteries. Leave them alone and do not molest them. Throughout Abu Bakr's reign, Khalid led his troops from one victory to another against the attacking Romans. Another contribution of Abu Bakr to the cause of Islam was the collection and compilation of the verses of the Quran. Abu Bakr's leadership was 2 years and 7 months, and he was died in the year 634 and was buried by the side of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. After the death of Abu Bakr, the Muslim community had chosen Umar as their leader. The most notable feature of Umar's caliphate was the vast expansion of Islam. Apart from Arabia, Egypt, Iraq, Palestine and Iran also came under the protection of the Islamic government. But the greatness of Umar himself lies in the quality of his rule. Once a woman brought a claim against the Caliph Umar. When Umar appeared on trial before the judge stood up as a sign of respect toward him. Umar reprimanded him, saying, "This is the first act of injustice you did to this woman." He insisted that his appointed governors live simple lives and keep no guard at their doors and be accessible to the people at all times. Many times foreign envoys and messengers sent to him by his generals found him resting under a palm tree or praying in the mosque among the people. It was difficult for them to distinguish which man was the Caliph. He spent many a watchful night going about the streets of Medina to see whether anyone needed help or assistance. The general social and moral tone of the Muslim society at that time is well illustrated by the words of an Egyptian who was sent to spy on the Muslims during their Egyptian campaign. He reported, "I have seen people, every one of whom loves death more than he loves life. They cultivate humility rather than pride. None is given to material ambitions, their mode of living is simple. Their commander is their equal. They make no distinction between superior and inferior, between master and slave. When the time of prayer approaches, none remains behind." Umar gave his government and administrative structure. Departments of treasury, army and public revenues were established, and regular salaries were set up for soldiers. The areas which came under his rule were divided into provinces and governors were appointed. New roads were laid, canals were dug and wayside hotels were built. Provision was made for the support of the poor and the needy from public funds. After conquering the Jerusalem, a contract had done between Christians and Umar that the protection is for their lives and properties, their churches and crosses, their sick and healthy, and for all their coalionists. Their churches shall not be used for habitation, nor shall they be demolished, nor shall any injury be done to them or to their compounds, or to their crosses, nor shall their properties be injured in any way. There shall be no compulsion for these people in the matter of religion, nor shall any of them suffer any injury on account of religion. Those non-Muslims who took part in defense together with the Muslims were exempted from paying jizya. The old, the poor and the disabled of Muslims and non-Muslims alike were provided from the public treasury and from the zakat funds. Umar's leadership was 10 years and he was died in the year 644 and was buried by the side of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. After the death of Umar, Usman elected as a Caliph of Muslim world. During the period of Usman, the expansion Islam is continued. Uthman's realm extended in the west to Morocco, in the east to Afghanistan, and in the north to Armenia and Azerbaijan. During his caliphate, a navy was organized, administrative divisions of the state were revised, and many public projects were expanded and completed. Usman sent prominent companions of the Prophet Muhammad as his personal deputies to various provinces to scrutinize the conduct of officials and the condition of the people. Usman's most notable contribution to the religion of Allah was the compilation of a complete and authoritative text of the Quran. A large number of copies of this text were made and distributed all over the Muslim world. Usman ruled for 12 years. The first 6 years were marked by internal peace and tranquility, but during the second half of his caliphate a rebellion arose, and Usman was murdered by the rebels in the year 656. After the death of Usman, Hazrat Ali was elected as a Caliph. After Ali appointed as Caliph, all governors gave the pledge to Ali except Muawiyah, the governor of Syria. Muawiyah declined to obey until Usman's blood was avenged. Muawiyah was the cousin of Usman, so he was the responsible of asking Ali to bring the murderers to trial. The Prophet's wife Aisha also took the position that Ali should first bring the murderers to trial. Due to the chaotic conditions during the last days of Usman, it was very difficult to establish the identity of the murderers, and Ali refused to punish anyone whose guilt was not lawfully proved. Hazrat Ali had ruled for 5 years. One morning when Ali was absorbed in prayer, Muljing stabbed him with a poisoned sword. On the 20th of Ramadan, the great companion of Prophet Muhammad left this world.